I started to see all the board walk into the main owner's office. And I'm like, I've seen this too many times with other CEOs. And like, heart dropped down, pit of my stomach. I try to go in my showroom, my fingerprint won't work. Try to log into my email, won't work. And I literally text my boyfriend, I'm like, today is the day. Ugh. He's like, what? I'm like, today is the day. I walk into the office, they say, we no longer need you a part of Cupcake Mafia. I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that because I own the company. They like pull out this binder and they're like, actually, you're an employee of a holding company that we own, and you're a B member on the board, and A members have voting rights.
Yep.
You have now been voted off, and you no longer own this company.
Pull up and listen, ladies and gents. In this week's episode, we dive into the incredible journey of Mz Skittlez, also known as Mary Seeds, a powerhouse entrepreneur who turned $300 into a multi-million-dollar fashion brand, Cupcake Mafia. And yes, she was a rapper to start. A rapper from Atlanta. This may not sound like your typical venture story, and that's because it isn't, but boy, is this one worth tuning into. From building a multi-million business to being fired from her very own company, Mary's journey is not just one of resilience, but a testament to why we should be investing in women just like her. This is a masterclass in resilience, ambition, and billion-dollar moves for anyone ready to break boundaries in business, and as I challenge you to break your patterns of success in investments. Buckle up.
We're going to start with rapid fire. Okay. So billion-dollar questions to get to know the woman behind the multi-million empire.
Okay.
First of all, what is something people don't know about you that they'd have to see it to believe it?
I think people don't know that maybe that I can't cook.
You can't cook?
No.
And you called your company Cupcake Mafia?
In the bakery.
And the bakery?
And I don't know how to bake.
All right.
So when I put it on my stories, now that I have a 6-year-old, they're all like laughing about my cakes that I'm like trying to make. But give me a year, I'll be good.
All right. Well, the other one maybe that people don't know is that you're actually an introvert, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that too. But I feel like because I have this alter ego, when I'm out and about, most people won't know that. You will only get to know that when you get to know me and you see the preparation that I have before I have to go into an event. So yes, I struggle with a little bit of social anxiety, and I'm also an introvert.
So, Mz Skittlez, we have to start there. What's Skittles? What does this mean? Do you like Skittles?
I actually love Skittles, but it came because when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of money. So I was interning at a local hair shop. And at the end of that month, they were like, we're going to give you free hair. So I'm like, okay. I was young. I didn't ask any questions. But at the end of the month, they were like, here's the box of hair you can choose from. It was all colorful braiding hair. Oh. So I kind of just made it my thing because I didn't have money and I wanted to get out the house anyways. So I just started braiding my hair in like orange and black and like all these different colors. And so then a tragic incident happened where I lost my best friend in ninth grade, and I was speaking in front of the whole school, and this guy made a joke and was like, sit down, you look like a Skittle. Ooh. And so the whole school started to call me Skittles. And then I go on 2 years later to get a record deal because I was in the music industry. My manager is like, hey, we need a nickname for you. And I'm like, I don't have a nickname. He's like, okay, well, you can't be Mary because of Mary J. Blige. Like, you can't be Eben, which is your middle name. That's weird. Like, you can't. He was like, no one ever called you anything. I'm like, in school, they tease me and call me Skittles. He was like, that's perfect. You have like a bright personality, so you can be Skittles. And so I went on to be a music artist called Skittles. And
I love that.
There's still a part of me that I'm like, oh my God, why this name, you know? But it's kind of followed me. And even when I was young and in college, before Obama was president, I was able to meet him, and the whole school had already told him, like, oh, if you want to bring influence to your campaign in Cleveland, you have to connect with Skittles. So when I met him and I'm like, hi, my name is Mary, he's like, are you Skittles? I'm like, it's the future president.
Well, if Barack Obama has said those words, you have to stick with it, man.
Exactly. So I
That's
think I
right.
can't run from it now.
I love it. Well, that's turning fuel to fire as well. I mean, you were teased, and then guess what? Who's laughing now, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so fill in the blank. Successes.
Success is legacy.
Failure is.
Failure is a chance to do it over again.
What's your most used app on your phone right now?
Instagram, for sure. Outside of Instagram would be ManyChat.
Pardon?
ManyChat.
Oh, ManyChat, of
Yes.
course, right. What has aged you the most?
Employees.
Okay. A moment you felt like you were giving up?
Oh my God, that's definitely the airbed story of when I built my first company from $300 and scaled it to $4 million. And then I partnered with an investment firm, which is kind of called a distribution firm when it comes to retail. And within 6 months, they fired me from my own company, and it left me on an airbed above my retail store that I had bought out of the deal to save those 3 employees that were working for me. That's the moment where I thought to give up, because I felt like there was no handbook. There is no book that says, hey, if you're a female founder, this is what you do if you sign a bad deal.
Yeah.
When you Googled at that time, when I Googled a person that had been fired from their company, the only story that came up was Steve Jobs. And it's like, okay, I can't just pick up the call and be like, hey, can you coach me on, So that was the lowest part. I mean, you're talking to your family and friends and they have no advice for you. It is the loneliest time it's the loneliest I've ever been in my life when you are just the only one that has went through this.
Yeah.
And there's no one to say, like, take this medicine, find this, do it again. But what I will tell you came out of that is one day, one of my friends who also exited her company, Boss Babe, I called her and I was like, hey, I need you to look over my resume. Like, I don't have that much job experience, but I need you to look over my resume because I'm going to get a night job to pay for my employees to keep my store open. And she was like, no, if you built $1 million business, build another one using those same skills. And she's like, get on Periscope, talk about what you're doing, share your story. And like from there, everything catapulted. Like, I built a community, which is called Girl Mob now. We have thousands of members from all over the world, minority women that are learning how to start, grow, and scale businesses. I wrote out the Bakery CoWork's blueprint. I started a marketing agency. So like in the darkest time, I was able to still find the light.
Yeah, so what a great segue. I mean, we're diving right into it. Take a step back here. The year was
2015.
2015. You had an idea to be making shirts and you were getting huge orders, including from Forever 21, and you didn't even know what distribution looked like, all of that. Bring us back to that moment. And then what made you, I guess, invite investors in and then turn this into a bad news story, unfortunately?
Absolutely. So I can tell you the most crazy story. So we got our largest order, which was around $50,000, and we needed to ship it within a certain window. It was for a store called DTLR. So we're at our storage unit, aka our warehouse, and we're waiting for FedEx to arrive. And we're like, wait, they're late. They usually come at 12 noon, and this has to be scanned by 5 p.m. And so I'm freaking out. I call a semi-truck company, like not a big semi-truck, but like definitely a truck that was bigger than I knew how to drive. I got in this truck, like this semi-truck, like a half of a semi-truck. My staff is in the back with the boxes, and we are hauling it to FedEx, like to not lose this order because they paid me up front. They weren't on net terms. So I'm hauling it. My staff is like flying around the back with the boxes, and we get to FedEx. They're like, we're about to close. I'm like, absolutely not. I will pay every single person $100 to make sure all of these packages get get scanned. And they're like, okay, no problem. So we're like hauling them off in a conveyor belt style, and we get them there. And at the end of the night, I'm like crying in my bed, like, I can't go on doing this. Like, what if this order was 100,000? What if this order was 300,000? How do I produce something when I'm using a local manufacturer and I don't even have the manpower to really do this? And so if one little piece breaks, which was FedEx not arriving, now I'm out of $50,000. And so I was like, I can't do this. So that was like June, July. August comes, we're at our trade show, and Forever 21 walks up and they're like, we love this brand. This is brilliant. Like, we want to do a collaboration. They wrote a $1.4 million purchase order. I'm like,
wow.
Looking at it, I'm like blinking. I'm like, is this real? Is this real? And they're like, yes, but we need it to ship for summer. I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
So how many, what was it? What month was that?
So that was August.
Okay.
So like August, but they wanted to ship in summer.
Right.
So I didn't have a lot of time to find an investor, to make sure all the tech packs were right, to do all the things. So what I did, like literally with the PO, I walked around to my other friend's booth, Jeff Staple, the owners of Pink Dolphin. I walked around to the other streetwear brands that I know had investors, and I was like, I have this PO. What do I do? And Jeff Staple was like, you have to find an investor. You have to find a distribution company. He scribbled on the paper, here's some names. Call them up, let them know you got this big PO, and then look up Damon John's story. So you can know the bad, but you can also, these are the people that know how to operate in China. These are the people that know how to get the product to America. You know, they know everything and they will back you. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow.
I went and met with these companies. They were flying me out. They made it seem like a dream. Like they were like, we believe in you. We are gonna, you'll have a stores in Times Square. We'll be sending you around the world to travel for inspo. Like, it was a dream that I was going from 8 employees to now a big company with 180 employees that all believed in my dream. Yeah. And that obviously was not it. And so what I do remember most is that at this time, my husband now, he was my boyfriend then, he was like, you have to get your lawyer involved. And so I'm calling my lawyer. And August and February is the biggest times to sell brands. So the lawyers that are in the retail space are so busy. And I was kind of like asking him to make crazy moves for me. He's like, I can't do it. Be patient. Please be patient. Please be patient. I'm like, I can't. And so I told them, I was like, you know what? I'll allow you guys to hire a lawyer for me. And so I allowed them to hire a lawyer for me. And in that meeting, that dinner that I had with the lawyer, he was like, what would you do if this all went wrong? And I was like, it's not going to go wrong. Like, I know me as a founder. I also know that if by the end, if this all goes wrong in 3 years, 5 years, I would have made so much money that I am so innovative that I could easily start something else. I didn't think that it would have went wrong in 6 months.
Yeah.
By the time that I got into the company, they were firing CEOs from other brands that had tripled their revenue.
Right.
So it already was a gloomy, dark pathway ahead when I'm seeing CEOs that I'm like looked up to that are now being fired from their companies. And like, obviously they're not telling me all the back end, but they're like, good luck, girl, you know? And within 6 months, they called me into the office. We were having a whole spat about whether I wanted to sell my brand to off-price retailers, and I didn't. And so I wanted this brand to be a brand that grew, you know? Yeah. I didn't want to drop it in an off-price like a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls. I felt like we could create a brand for those off-price retailers. And they didn't want to do that. They were like, no, you're going to lose money, and we don't want to do that. We want to sell your brand to off-price. We want to sell your brand to all the sneaker stores and to the high-end stores. And I was like, women don't shop like that, you know? One day, they asked me to come into the office. They were like, you pack up, you know, your suitcase. We're going to send you to Atlanta for a trade show. And I'm like, okay, great. I like bring my little dog in, have my suitcase ready. And then I started to see all the board walk into the main owner's office. And I'm like, I've seen this too many times with other CEOs. And like, heart dropped down, pit of my stomach. I try to go in my showroom, my fingerprint won't work. Try to log into my email, won't work. And I literally text my boyfriend, I'm like, today is the day. Ugh. He's like, what? I'm like, today is the day. I walk into the office, they say, we no longer need you a part of Cupcake Mafia. I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that because I own the company. They like pull out this binder and they're like, actually, you're an employee of a holding company that we own, and you're a B member on the board, and A members have voting rights.
Yep.
So we are all A members. You have now been voted off, and you no longer own this company. And I went to Helen Hardy. I was in New York. I went to Helen Hardy, a soup shop, and I just cried my eyes out. And I was like, what do? I have no real work history. I've always been in the music industry. I had no like path, even though I had a degree, I had no path to say, okay, I'll be a marketer. I'll be a this, I'll be a that. Like all of my eggs was in that one basket.
Yeah.
And so I honestly didn't know what to do. I called my boyfriend. He said, you know what? Come back to Atlanta. We'll figure it out. I took that flight to Atlanta, Airbnb'd my apartment in New York, and started my journey over. And it was the worst and best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, so many, first of all, sorry that you went through that, but this is not uncommon. I've heard this many times from a lot of my own friends because they were not familiar with private equity, but that is their very model, right? Yes. Especially in D2C where they essentially acquire, and then for some of them, they're not interested in the growth of the company. They're looking to squash competitors or actually merge and get it to the next place and have no interest really in having you lead the brand, although it was what made it successful.
Yes.
So taking a step back, it's been years since then, and of course you've as they say, you have risen from the ashes. Yes. And you've used all that fuel to fire you up. What would you say are your top 3 lessons that you take from that situation, advising someone, a younger Mz Skittlez that was so excited about this deal, like a huge investor? What would you say to a founder tuning in?
Yeah, I would absolutely say your lawyer should be involved in everything. Like now, I don't even go. I can't.
And hire your own lawyer.
Hire your own.
You can't have the same lawyer as the other party.
Absolutely. Hire your own lawyer. Now there's so much AI out here. Like you can put a contract in ChatGPT and be like, tell me all the red flags of this contract. So even before if you don't have a lawyer, you can do something as simple as that so that when you sit in front of a lawyer, you can say, hey, break this contract down in dummy terms. Explain this contract to a 5-year-old. And that's what I needed. I needed to know that I was a B member. I thought that I was with them. I was giving money. I was investing in things with them. So I thought that I was on the same level as them, but that's not what the contract said. So the first thing is hire your own lawyer. The second thing is if someone wants to invest in you or partner with you, understand your value. I had already bootstrapped a business from $300 to $4 million, and I had a $1.4 million purchase order, which means that more purchase orders were going to come, whether it was from Forever 21, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, more purchase orders were going to come. Our projection was at a $7 million. We had a $7 million projection. So if I can go from $300, no loans, no investors, no rich boyfriends, like nothing, no credit, no capital, just $300 continuing to flip and flip. There was some value that I owned as a founder. And that value kind of went away as I continued to grow and scale the brand because I start to think, I can't do this by myself. There's someone smarter than me. There's someone that has it all figured out and I need that person. No, you may need a little bit of information. You may need backing. You may need financial capital, but you are so valuable in what you are building. So understand your value because you're only as good as what you negotiate. And so the third thing that I would say is really plan your exit and make a roadmap from there. So with Cupcake Mafia, I never thought about getting fired from the brand. My personal brand was so infused in Cupcake Mafia. Like when you seen me, you seen the brand. You knew how some way that I was pushing, and every buyer knew my number. Like it was so connected to me. So when the brand failed, I failed. Instead of me planning like, okay, I want this brand to grow. My personal brand is separate. I'm not going to mix them together. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I'll also be doing this over here to bring revenue to the business. I just planned, I want to grow a t-shirt company. I want to scale a t-shirt company. And whatever I have to do it, that's what I'm going to do. And so I think when you are thinking about your company, so now I have the largest female-focused co-working space. It's called the Bakery. Mm-hmm. And I've already thought, like, okay, what is my end goal for the Bakery? Mm-hmm. How do I not make those same mistakes? How do I separate my personal brand so that when I sell, I'm not a liability to the Bakery, right? And so I think that when you think about your end goal, you, one, won't get caught up by the stop signs and the red lights that you get along the way. Because if you know, oh my goodness, I'm going to the bank to cash a $10,000 check, you're not counting the stop signs. You're not counting the red lights. You're not counting the potholes or the times you run out of gas. Your end goal is like, I got to get to that bank.
Yeah.
But in business, when you don't have an end goal, you start to think, oh my God, my bank account looks terrible. Let's just give up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the employees are not let's just give up. You start to count all the stop signs and the red lights along the way because you're forgetting that there is this huge end goal that is not going to only impact you, your family, but the other people that are going to be inspired by your story.
Love that. Skittles is dropping gems here. So I want to unpack that a little bit because I think this is super important. I love the metaphor of the red lights, right? And I don't know if you tuned into Matthew McConaughey's book, audiobook. I absolutely love it, but it's called Green Lights.
Okay.
And he talks about green lights in life, that we don't often pay attention to the green lights. That's a green light. That's a green light. So question to you is, business is so hard, so effing hard. Every day is a challenge, whether that's employees, sudden politics, whatever you call it, right? How do you differentiate between a red light that you have to stop and turn the other way and pivot, or that it's just another hurdle? What's your framework for that these days?
Yeah. So my one quote that I live by is a slow rise to the top is better than a fast fall to the bottom. So when I think about my journey and my growth, I'm like the longest overnight success that you'll ever see. This is like a 10-year overnight success. I see all the media saying, she's an overnight success. I'm like, what overnight? Like 10 years of overnight success? Great. But I would say my framework is pivot professionally and successfully. How do you do that, right? Pivot, there are two things that I think about as a CEO. I think about what moves the cash register, and I think about what moves my customer experience, right? So when a hurdle comes up, right? Like, so say if a team member is about to quit. When this team member is about to quit, I'm thinking, how does this team member affect my customer experience? How does this team member affect the cash register? And I'm going to create an opportunity for me to professionally pivot from this team member. This team member may be, for example, I always thought that I needed an in-person executive assistant. I'm like, oh my God, they have to be with me. They have to hold my bag. They have to do this. They have to do that. And like, once I lost my executive assistant, or they decided to pivot and move into a new career path, I was like, oh my God, they've been with me for 5 years. How do I navigate someone learning me all over again? And I wrote down what affects my customer experience and what affects the cash register, right? And the cash register, or my finances, was that this executive assistant is expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive. The flights, the hotels, all the things. And when I wrote down the line items of what they actually do for me, it could be virtual. And then when I thought about how they affected my customer experience, is because they work with me every single day. They have all of my clients' numbers. My clients go to them. They're booking calls. They're doing this. They're doing that. There's so much communication in their phone that I no longer have access to. I don't know what they said to my last client because they're leaving, and now I have to have, but what if a client reaches out to them that I didn't work with before? So now, how do I make sure that that never happens again? I have a virtual assistant. We run through a system called Go High Level, where I can see every text, every call, every calendar appointment, every email that was sent, so that if I need to offboard that executive assistant and onboard a new executive assistant, they can start exactly where that executive assistant left off. it made better sense for me in the long run of my business. So how can you pivot professionally and successfully to extend the growth of your company?
I love it. And a lot of that sounds like planning optionality.
Yeah.
By giving yourself options and retaining some of that control,
yes,
really, because it is your business ultimately. So you talked a little bit about the Bakery CoWork. So we want to go into that. This is your new venture. Of course, you're also dubbed the Kris Jenner of marketing.
Yes.
You own the Icing Agency and you work with some big names, right? From those that have been on Shark Tank,
Yes.
Tamara Braxton, Share, Spirgo. Tell us a little bit about, these two worlds that you're in today. What takes up most of your time? What is the vision here? That end goal you were talking about.
Absolutely. So currently we are working on developing a CEO for the Icing Agency. She is amazing. And so previously to opening the bakery, the Icing Agency was literally my full focus. We all together, I have 28 employees. So each of the businesses are running, they are thriving. We have leadership in all across the board in all of the companies. So now I'm just an overseer.
And that is purely a marketing agency working with
yes,
brands and all that.
Yep, it's a full
Tell us
service marketing agency. So we do everything for its graphics, videography, photography, event development, everything, PR. We do it all depending on what our clients need. So we work with small businesses, large businesses, and personal brands. So I've been running that company for 9 years. That actually started from the original company that I got fired from. So they wanted to sell me to an off-price retailer.
Yeah.
The off-price retailer got word that I had got fired from my investment firm, and they called me and said, we have over $1 million contract for a consultant, but you have to own a marketing agency. And I was literally like, I don't have no marketing agency. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to buy back my retail brand. And they were like, but you're the perfect person. You have the vision, you have the connections, you have the relationships, you are perfect. And I'm like, sorry, like I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea how to do that. She's like, you have a marketing degree. You are the person we need to hire.
You are it.
You are it. I'm like, okay, this will give you the money you need to buy your company back. Hello. I'm like, you're right. She's like, you have to Friday to give me a marketing agency, to get me a proposal. And that's what we did. And so since then, I've been growing and scaling this marketing agency. In 2020, we did $16 million in revenue. Yeah.
Let's clap for that.
And it's been an upward spiral. It's been an upward spiral.
I love that word. Yeah.
The amount of clients that we've been able to manage, the cool things that we've been able to do. Recently, we helped a client whose event is this upcoming weekend. We're producing her full conference with special guests and a whole line of talent, musical performances, and all the things. And we recently, in 30 days, she's like, I want to release a book. So in 30 days, we helped her release her book, wrote the book, shot the cover photos, did all the marketing for the book. And then within 30 days, the book is out on Amazon. And in one day, she made the Amazon bestseller list.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So of course, this sounds like the overnight success, but we know it's been 10 years in the making, 9 years for the Icing Agency, but a lot of that skill set has been built before. What do you think now that you're like a veteran, right, in marketing and building brands? What do brands today need to know in building an effective brand, in being that personality? I mean, those are perhaps two different things as you talk about, separation of brands there. What's your key tip from a marketing perspective here?
I think the key tip that I have is value over price. A lot of people don't see the value in your brand, and that's why they're worried or concerned about the price. If people seen the value in your company, then you would have no issues with selling them on whatever price that you want to have, right? We walk into Chanel and buy Chanel bags, the price has increased
enormously.
Enormously every single year, because they have made this perceived value to their customer, and they are not willing to negotiate. Even if their manufacturer said, we will make these bags for 2 cents, they would still sell them for $5,000, $6,000, right? Because it's that perceived value and the ultimate customer that they're looking for. So in marketing, I see so many brands that are struggling with sales right now. And then I look at their Instagram and I'm like, what do you do? What do you sell? Who is your ultimate customer? It's not clear on who your customer is. It's not clear on why they need to buy and the value that you offer to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And once brands or personal brands fix that, the rest of their, it's easy. Yeah. The rest of it is so easy. It's like Apple, right? It's like even Jeff Bezos. Let's talk about Amazon for a second. When we talk about Amazon was like, I have this marketplace where people can go online and they are going to get the products very quickly from all of these different retailers. So instead of going to one store or another website, now we can go to a marketplace and buy everything together. But guess what his holdup was? His holdup was, I'm now working with UPS and USPS to deliver my packages and they're not getting to the customer on time. And I want to be able to be the fastest marketplace to get the items from offline to the customer's house. So he said, I'm going to open up my own shipping company. He cut out the middleman. The middleman was UPS and USPS, who doesn't ship on Saturdays, who won't pull up on Christmas Eve and deliver to you. He made his own rules to be able to scale his company. Yeah. So what is holding you back from really scaling? Is it a middleman? Is it a perceived value that you have? Like even with McDonald's sells 99-cent burgers, right? That's the perceived value. No one is walking into McDonald's saying, I'm going to get 100-calorie meal that's luxury. Like, when you go there, you're spending $5 to get some French fries and a burger. So like, what is the perceived value that you want your audience to leave with? How do we make that memorable? Like, I'm going to McDonald's with a price point in mind.
Which brings me to you taking out your middleman, because when I was looking at the work you were doing with the Icing Agency and then the Bakery CoWork, you're doing those shoots, those videographies, those events in your own space now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell us about the bakery.
Yeah, so I created the bakery after wanting community, and I think that's a really big part of success for women. You have to find a community. You have to find your tribe. You have to find people that inspire you. And when I was on that airbed, I decided to go travel to LA and join a co-working space because I seen an ad about an all-women co-working space and there was none in Atlanta. So I traveled to LA to join this co-working space and I was racially profiled. And it really broke my heart. We were in 2017 at the time. So for me, or 2016 at the time.
Yeah.
So for me to be racially profiled and for us to be sitting in a members meeting.
Right.
And there's me and one Indian girl and everyone else doesn't look like us. And they put everyone else as a members class on the calendar. And when it came to me being the first minority woman to speak up and say, hey, this is what I would love to teach. I would love to teach marketing. And they said, oh, great. Can you send us an email? And then more people, they put everyone else except me and this other Indian woman. And we looked at each other and my heart just dropped. Is it just random that this happened, that you asked both of us to send you an email and would not put us in your programming? And then the very next day, because I was there for 3 days, the very next day, about to go into the bathroom and they're like, ma'am, can you leave your bag outside? Because this particular co-working space was sponsored by Chanel and sponsored by high-end products, I guess. And I'm like, wait, but everyone else is walking in this bathroom with their bag. At that moment, I finished my co-working with those 3 days. I went home. I jotted on a piece of paper that I wanted to create a space for all women, no matter what your religious beliefs, political backgrounds, what your history is, what the color of your skin looks like. If we peel the layers of our skin off, right? Yeah. We all bleed the same. We have the same insides. We want the best for our kids. We want the best for our lives and our spouses. We care about our families and our moms and our dads at the core of who we are, despite what we look like. We all need the same thing. Yeah. And so I developed this co-working space to be a one-stop shop for all women to be able to start, grow, and scale their business and be the secret ingredient to the other girl's recipe. Yeah. We are literally all the secret ingredient to someone else's recipe. And that's why I created the Bakery CoWork. And we have 7 streams of revenue that come into the Bakery CoWork because I did a lot of research with other co-working spaces and why they were failing.
Yep.
And I wanted to build the safest place for people to invest in. And we know if this revenue stream is down, there's this revenue stream. If this revenue stream is down, there's this revenue stream. And so we created a one-stop shop. And in 3 years, we're growing and scaling. And in our first year, we were fully profitable.
Love it. You're going into, real estate right now, which is a tough business, as you said. And a lot of co-working spaces have had epic fails. There are even, Netflix or Amazon Prime series that were made on them. How are you building the bakery differently? I mean, you talk a little bit about your different revenue streams. Tell us a little bit about that insight on how you bring strategic here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it comes from the marketing space, right? It comes from the marketing background. I think what Cupcake Mafia or what the bakery does different is very similar to all of the businesses that I've built, which is first built on community. When you get a group of people that have a need that are now working together, the brand is easily going to scale. So even within 3 years, I've never ran any paid ads for the Bakery CoWork, and we have thousands of members. But it's really based on, I got crazy results from becoming a member. I joined a class. I saved on my taxes. I got this. I learned how to raise capital. I've done this. I've done that. They're going to tell all their friends. So we look at it as for every member that we get results for, they bring in 3 members. So we want to make sure that our members are getting results from our co-working spaces versus when I worked at other co-working spaces, it's just a table and a chair and free coffee. It's no one there. Our community connectors are there to connect the community together. And that's one thing that we do much differently. From the moment that you join the Bakery CoWork, we know what you need. We don't know just about your business. We talk about what do you need so that we can find someone. Okay, if you're saying you need a photographer, right? We're going to say, okay, wait, let's look through our directory. Here's 2 members that are photographers. You should connect with them. You should message them in our portal. We would then put together a group chat to be like, hey, this person is looking for a photographer. You guys should connect. And therefore, baking gets started. Dreams are baked here at the bakery. And so that's the one thing that we've built it on is community. The second thing is, how do we take a single space and increase the revenue model from that single space? So most co-working spaces, they just have a space and they're renting the space out. So for example, TikTok came to Atlanta and they found our space and they were like, hey, we have an event space budget of $2,500, right? And we said, okay, because we have an amazing event specialist, who's doing your catering? They're like, we don't know. Who's doing your event planning? We don't know. Who's doing your furniture, your decor, your welcome signs, your influencer guest list? Who's doing all of that stuff? Well, we don't know. Well, what is your budget for the ultimate event? Oh, our budget is $25,000. Okay, well, because we have in-house everything, in-house catering, in-house production, in-house marketing, in-house decor, we can take that full budget and we can produce the event for you. TikTok flew in, their event was produced, their influencers were there, and they loved it, and they signed with us for 2 other events. And so it took a normal booking from $2,500 to now $25,000. And they were there for 4 hours in our building.
Wow.
And that's the same with Good American. Good American came for the Atlanta casting, and they initially only wanted the space. But because they said, we're coming from LA, we don't want to figure out parking, valet, all these things. We trust that you guys can do it based on the work that you've already shown us. And it took it from a $1,500 booking to a number that I probably can't talk about.
Yeah. So a big question here is for a lot of people that tune into, this sort of model, right? It sounds very labor intensive. Is it truly scalable? Address our fears here that, hey, if we invest in this kind of business, it's so dependent on the people. If something fails, something breaks, is that truly a system? Is this, an investable business, really?
It's definitely an investable business because it's growing and scaling so fast. And there's I don't think that there's ever a city that isn't having a baby shower. I don't think that there's ever a city that isn't having a birthday party. I don't think that there's ever a brand that doesn't need a photo shoot, or there isn't, Dove is not saying, hey, because of the pandemic, we're not going to shoot any commercials.
Yeah.
No, they're saying, hey, we need one photographer 6 feet apart. We're going to have a model here. We need her to rub the soap on her face. Production is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Events are still happening every single day. So and we run the bakery off of 8 employees.
Still today.
Wow. 8 employees.
And how many locations are you in today?
So we are opening our second location in Houston. And then I believe we will move into, I built the business around 8 employees. So we can start each location with 8 employees and make sure that each revenue model in the business is working.
Yeah.
So it is a easily investable business. We have gotten the science down to where it is there is an SOP, a training guide for every question that anyone can ever have in my business. My operational system is absolutely flawless.
Yeah.
The second thing is we are now developing a tech around the bakery, and the app is going to be called Bake. And why we are developing this tech is because currently when you walk into the Bakery CoWork, if you want to do an event, you have to talk to our event specialist. If you want to do a photo shoot, you have to talk to our photography development specialist. And without those 2 people, right, how do we see more people? So we had 100 tours booked in one day. Those 2 people may not be able to see 100 people. Yeah. But if we had an app that had video that said, hi guys, welcome to the bakery. This is a one-stop shop for all of your branding, marketing, community needs. Dreams are baked here. This is the services that we offer. Now push, if you're looking for a photo shoot, click photo shoot. Yeah. Here's the models that we have a database for. Do you need a 1 camera? Do you need 2 cameras? Do you need a wardrobe stylist? Yeah. Do you need this? And it would be a database of people. It's almost like dating, right? Yeah. So once they put it into our system, our incubator system, it's going to have AI technology, and it's going to come out with, here's the stylist that we're hiring for you. Here's the models based on what you put in the app. When you show up to the shoot, everything is already prepared.
Yeah, I hear you. So a one-stop shop. And just so you know, this week we are dropping the story about Eventbrite. Yes. So Julia Hartz as our featured CEO. And they just made $323 million last year.
Wow.
So the events business is alive and kicking. Doing this podcast, I believe you with the end-to-end, and we're headed right now to the Women, Wealth, and Legacy Day. So I'll have to end with this one question since we're heading there for our firm Beyond the Billion and Culture Shift Labs. What will your billion-dollar move be, and what is legacy to you?
My billion-dollar move would definitely be exiting the bakery. I think that a strategic is going to come along and purchase our company, take the idea and the concept much further. When I look into other co-working spaces of founders that don't look like me, that don't have the sweat equity, that don't have the resilience, that have not built it themselves before coming into this world. So I've already built several multimillion-dollar companies on my own. I've already went through the losses. I've already took all that the world can handle, right? Can throw at you. Yeah. And I've took those crumbs and I turned them into a glorious cake, right? And so I feel like if someone was to say, hey, I love what she's doing and I want to invest in her and I want to help her scale this thing. One, it is a $1 billion business. It is a $1 billion business that is already proven in 3 years to be scalable, right? And from that exit, I want when other minority women sit across from the table from VCs and private equity firms, they think, wow, we took a chance on Mary Seats. Remember that girl that dresses a little funny, like the girl that's always in pink and has a pink car? Remember we invested in that girl and she went on to exit and have a unicorn business for $1 billion? There's another brown girl that's sitting at our table that has the same energy, same excitement, same resilience, and why maybe we should change the scope because minority women are less than
0.5%.
Yeah. 5% invested in. And if Mary did it for us, then maybe we should open the door for every other minority girl that is sitting in front of us. We should give her a chance. We shouldn't think about, wow, she didn't come from Harvard. We don't know any of her family or friends, and they haven't it's not like traditionally passed down to her. She doesn't look like us, right? I want what I do in this world to open the door for every other brown girl.
And that is your legacy.
That's
wow, that
legacy.
gave me shivers. And what a word to end on. Mary Seeds, Mz Skittlez, keep making billion-dollar moves.
Yes.
Give me a high five. And that's a wrap. And we gotta go.
Yes.
We did it.
And thanks so much for tuning in this week. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow our socials on Sarah Chen Global to get the latest on the show. It would really help me out too if you enjoyed this to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts and share your favorite episodes with a friend. I'm Sarah Chen-Spellings and you've been listening to Billion Dollar Moves.